The Life of George Washington Carver by Barbara Barnes and Stacy Shira. George Washington Carver was born in Missouri on the Moses Carver plantation. George's parents were slaves. Slaves worked for their owners and were considered property. They were not allowed to do many things, and they had to do whatever their owners wanted them to do. George's father died before he was born, and his mother was kidnapped by slave traders when he was a baby. Therefore, George did not know either one of his parents. George was sick when he was a child and could not do the chores that the other slaves did. Instead, his jobs were sewing and cooking. He also loved to work in the garden when he was able to do so. George taught himself to read, and when he was 12 years old, he left his home to go to an all-black school. At his school, his teacher taught 75 children in one classroom. Schools similar to this one are known as a one-room schoolhouse. While all of the other children were playing, George studied. Before long, he knew more things than his teacher did. George went to several schools. He graduated high school from Minneapolis High School in Kansas. After graduation, George built a home in Ness County, Kansas. While he was there, he planted 17 acres of corn, rice, and other garden produce. He did this all without the use of animals. He did it all by himself. Then he was accepted into a college in Kansas. When they found out he was black, however, they decided not to let him go there. Instead, Princeton College in Iowa accepted him. While he was there, he studied art and piano. He then transferred to Iowa State College, where he studied plants. To make money, George sold hominy that he grew, and he also ironed the clothes of his classmates. George was very resourceful. He found an old stove and brought it back to his house to cook. He also used old wrapping paper for notebooks. After he graduated college, George became a teacher. He taught students about biology or about living things. After this, he moved to Alabama and became a teacher at a university in Alabama called the Tuskegee Institute. The Tuskegee Institute was a university for black students. While at Tuskegee, he became the leader of the agricultural department. He worked there for the next 47 years of his life. George began studying diseases that hurt crops in the area, and he also found new ways to use different kinds of plants. He found more than 300 ways to use peanuts. Some of the uses that he found for peanuts include soap and ink. He found 118 ways to use sweet potatoes. Some of the uses for sweet potatoes that he found include flour and candy. He found 75 ways to use pecans. He even discovered how to make building materials from cornstalk. During this time, Thomas Edison, a famous inventor, tried to get George Washington Carver to work for him. Carver refused. He wanted to do more things at Tuskegee Institute. He even wrote for a newspaper. His column was called Professor Carver's Advice. He wrote articles about the peanut industry. In 1939, he received the Roosevelt Medal for his outstanding contribution to Southern agriculture for all his work with plants. The next year, he established the George Washington Carver Foundation at the Tuskegee Institute. The foundation does research in the areas of agriculture and chemistry. George Washington Carver did not care about money, cars, or even stylish clothes. He said that truly successful people were those who had learned to serve others, which is a motto that he chose to live by. Before his death in 1943, George gave all of his life savings to the Tuskegee Institute. Then, one day, George Washington Carver fell down. He became very sick after that. Eventually, he died from this. He died on January 5, 1943, in Tuskegee, Alabama. He was buried next to his friend, Booker T. Washington. No one knows for sure how old George was when he died. We think he was probably around 80 years old, though. George Washington Carver overcame many hardships in his life to become one of the world's best scientists. His work has been used for many years, and he will always remain in the hearts and minds of all Americans.